right. Thanks so much, everyone, for taking time to be with us during your lunch break if you're on Central Time or a little late post-lunch if you're on Eastern Time. Um, as you know, today we're going to talk about the four non-negotiables for AI and automation for your go-to-market strategy in 2026. It's been a hot topic, certainly on our end at Aleran, and I know it has with the team at Avalara. And so, really excited to be able to walk through, talk about what we're seeing, some recommendations, and then also hear from you for what's top of mind. So today, we're going to be, again, really conversational. Jump in with any questions, thoughts that you have. We'll go through some trends that we're seeing. We'll talk about some ways to be able to solve, balancing some of the risks and rewards of implementing change for a go-to-market strategy. And then we'll walk through those top four. And then, of course, questions. And we have a pretty exciting giveaway. So make sure to stick around for that. All right, so we're going to start by just talking a little bit about the lay of the land in the situation today. And that is, I'll admit, Angel. We're definitely seeing a renewed focus as we look ahead to 2026. I mean, 2025, to say the least, a really wild ride, right? We had tariffs and uncertainty, we had supply chain uncertainty, costs that outpaced and definitely impacted margin. We had the government shutdown. And yet, there's some indicators of 2026 with some blue skies and some optimism. I'm based in Minnesota, so I recently went to an event here led by a group called Enterprise Minnesota, coalition of the manufacturing community here. And the number one top priority for manufacturers, one, in Minnesota, they're feeling pretty optimistic. And two, the number one growth driver that they identified for 2026 is new customer acquisition. And that was up several spots from the year before. So that's a change too, that indicates what we're seeing. We're seeing some improvements in pricing. And then I use maybe in little marks because there's still uncertainty there. But we're starting to see maybe a little bit more certainty of how to proceed than we did in 2025 of it's starting today. No, it's starting next week. No, it's starting next month. So that's all great. And so as we look ahead and prioritize growth, that go-to-market strategy is really critical because what worked last year or the year before with all of the shifts, and then you couple that with AI and emerging tech, is not going to work in the same predictive way that it has in the past. And Melissa, I'd love to hear too of what you're hearing and seeing from manufacturers as they look ahead to 2026 investments.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the investments that people are making is to streamline and automate things that are not revenue generating for their organizations. When you look at things like Avalara and the products that we have and that we serve for our customer base, everything really is non-revenue generating hours that people are keeping in-house today. So people are trying to stay compliant, they're trying to de-risk, they're trying to automate processes today that I know we're going to be chatting about.
Awesome. Right. So, this gentleman on the left may look a little familiar, or maybe not, but what we're seeing, at least on the Aleron end, and we're going to talk about our build to sell report in a little bit. I'm going to just admit Carol here. All right. And what we have seen, and again, we'll share some stats from that. We're seeing that consumers and B2B buyers, including on the manufacturing end, they want to be able to self-serve. And in some cases, they want to be able to go online without having to even talk to a sales representative. And we certainly know that consumers are researching online and even more than they have in the past with the confluence of different digital channels, including social. So that is definitely a trend that we're seeing in terms of demand, being able to have that seamless digital self-service experience.
Yeah, so something else that I want to input in here around mid-sized manufacturers. So in terms of Avalara, there is no company that's too big or too small. We help the mom and pop shops of the world all the way to the Walmarts of the world and everything in between. A mid-level size company around manufacturers, you folks are going to have the same type of compliance that an enterprise company has. It doesn't matter if you're not in all of the states or you're in just a few. At the end of the day, auditors don't care. They care that you're not in compliance and they want to come in and grab that low-hanging fruit. So what we've realized is that the company size necessarily doesn't matter. There is compliance and there is risk associated with any size of business, and Avalara can help all of that. You're never going to outgrow a company like Avalara when it comes to being able to help from a compliance perspective.
Mhm, mhm. Excellent. And I think the stats too, Melissa, are really interesting about mid-sized manufacturers having trouble keeping up with tax laws. We're going to walk through a few stats too on just the mid-market in general. And so one thing we find as we work with Aleran, we serve exclusively mid-market B2B manufacturers, those with complex products, pricing, sales processes. And what we commonly see is when these manufacturers are looking to drive growth and do that efficiently, affordably, and profitably, selling through a commerce platform makes a lot of sense, right? And there's a lot that may sound really familiar. Those, however, aren't always built for B2B and definitely not for manufacturing. They can't always handle the rules, the variation, the pricing, and then you add in the complex tax compliance that's required. And then you add in the other piece that they're not always built for mid-sized. So it may be enterprise product that you don't have time for quarters or up to a year to be able to implement, or the IT team to be able to implement and maintain. But at the same time, you're facing the same level of enterprise risks or small business risks at the mid-size level. And Melissa, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that what I would say is I would challenge the group and I would say, is anyone aware of the different types of tax changes or tax changes that you had to go through internally? Statistically, there was over 85,000 different taxability changes in the US and Canada just last year. There was over 99,000 tax holiday rule updates. And again, that's not just pertaining to the Walmarts of the world. That could be for small mom and pops. You might live in one of what we call the naughty states, right? Where they have a bunch more rules and changes than maybe others. So at the end of the day, size does not matter. Whether you're big or small or somewhere in between, there's going to be complexity and risk regardless.
Absolutely. Um, and then the other piece too, as we talked about, not on all commerce platforms are built for B2B. They aren't all built for mid-size and then for manufacturing. Um, with that ability to connect with the ERP and CRM for that real-time data and accuracy, and also that orchestration across channels. That sales network is incredibly layered between the dealers, distributors, your customers. And so as you think about your go-to-market strategy, all of those components play a really key role in needing to be accounted for. Oops, I'll go back. So I referenced our Built to Sell report earlier. We released that in September, and one finding, and I'd love to hear the group's thoughts on this. This really surprised me. 86% of the 200 manufacturers we surveyed said that they have lost a deal because of their slow manual quoting. And that's totaled on average about 5% in revenue leakage, and even up to 15%. So if you're a mid-size $50 million manufacturer, that's a pretty substantial chunk of your revenue and hit to your profitability each year. So I'd love to hear from folks that are here. Is this surprising to you? Is this something that you've experienced?
I know from my seat, absolutely. Lengthy quoting workflows you lose the responsiveness, and a warm
Mhm.
lead can quickly turn cold, or you can get displaced by someone who is faster to market.
Mhm.
They're now in the driver's seat, and now I'm playing catch up or
Mhm.
react because of a lengthy manual quoting process.
Mhm. Yeah, and thanks for that, Richard. And that's something that came through in the survey data too. And so as you're here today and we talk about manufacturers need a path forward, but it's also really hard to know where to start, right? Like you have systems, you've had them for a long time. Maybe they were built in-house or their legacy because they were implemented a long time ago and don't have the time, team, or resources to upgrade. So you know that you need to change, and especially as the different forces that will look ahead for 2026, but it's just hard to know where to start. So that's where we like to say Aleran comes in. We are solely focused on mid-sized B2B manufacturers. We are ERP connected, quoting and sales platform. And we're really built to help simplify and scale that quoting and selling. So, to your point, Richard, of being able to not have that warm lead get lost or get cold. And we'll walk through how that experience can look like for them in Aileron. And then we do that by covering the full sales cycle. We start with by making your products discoverable, found fast and first with AI, search, and SEO, all the way to quotable, click to cart shoppable, shippable and taxable, and then reorderable. So there's a lot of ables in there, and that's what we want manufacturers to be able to do is feel able and confident. So this is a quick look at what the workflow looks like. And then we'll talk about a few scenarios. So just imagine a buyer visits your site. They configure a product based on specifications that you have set in the back end. They submit the request for it. That happens in minutes instead of calling on the phone or maybe an email or a job sheet filled out and sent over to sales. Then sales is working with engineering, and that can take, days to, I've even heard a couple of weeks. So sales gets notified, they're reviewing it. Cool thing too with Aleron is with our ERP connection, we use AI to connect to the BOM level. So that helps in the configuration and the quoting process to just bring that inner engineering grade and intelligence into that front end quoting process. Review the quote, say they request a discount, that gets reviewed, and then boom, they can hit purchase. And then since we also integrate with not only Avalara, but transportation management systems, can track that status of that shipment all the way through. Okay, so let's take a quick look inside. I'm going to go ahead and play this and walk you through. So just imagine you're coming to this could be the buyer experience as you're looking at, say, for your company, a really clean design. The products are all well laid out. It probably looks a lot like, again, I'm in the state of Minnesota, so I'm going to do another plug, maybe for a Target experience, right? In this case, I'm going to go in, I'm going to log in as a buyer, a customer. And in this scenario, too, you can even personalize further the products, the pricing. Right here, I'm going to show you the very first opportunity for your go-to-market, and that's our AI shopping assistant, where you can ask questions and get recommendations to help free up some time for your sales team. I would say to free up your sales team to just further serve customers in the process. And so, as you see here, entered in the question, there's different kinds of products that the buyer would have an option for. And then the second piece now for the non-negotiable is that easy configuration and using AI to help. So you can see how easy it is to just click through the different components and be able to, you want to right here, click to cart. Great. So we have that added. And as we go ahead and look at this next part, we are going to go down and similar products. So one other way that Aleran uses AI is to help increase average order value by showing you similar products based on who you are and your data from our integration with ERP and CRM. Another way, non-negotiable, that we leverage the power of AI is by making products and catalogs easily shoppable. So a lot of times what we see are manufacturers that have these dense PDF catalogs, and they can be out of date by the time they're shared. So what we can do with using AI is just in a matter of minutes with unlimited SKUs, we can take and put hotspots for those products, those parts, and make them easily clickable and shoppable. In this case, I'm not going to add it to cart because I don't want to do another login step. But that would be another easy way to do that, right? Where you don't have to sacrifice your catalogs to put everything online. You can still have that balance. And then the fourth non-negotiable for your go-to-market strategy is, as we talk about, just that all-in-one experience and that transparency of being able to show tax. So we're going to go through the checkout all, and you'll see that click on here. Great. We're going to add in some details, proceed, and I always forget this part. We're going to put in the payment information, the terms, and shipping method. As I mentioned, we integrate with your transportation management systems. Hit proceed, and look, it even has the tax calculated for you. So there's no questions, there's no fears that you have to try to manually keep up with all of the different rules. I'll
Okay.
just give you a quick look on the back end
You want
before
to
I
transfer it?
turn it over to the Avalara team. You see on our back end where we have the Avalara integration, it's super easy. You just put in your account ID, your information. We are also excited to
This price?
announce today that we are an official certified technology partner
Hey,
for
yeah,
Avalara.
boys.
And so what we can do then is you enter this in, you have your account ID, as I mentioned, your company code, and then you can even click to test to make sure that it works
Oh,
and
okay.
get that confidence that you are
What do you need from
fully
me?
compliant. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press
On
that
the ID, it'll
and
be 15.
turn off the video here and go to the next piece where Bob, you're going to walk through how it can look for Avalara on the back end.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I know it was just a small snippet there of that
So,
overall process involving AI, but that tax
Oh,
calculation
yeah.
component is key to maintaining your compliance. Right? So
Yeah.
as
let me
we're
see
going
your,
through, one
can
thing
I
I
have
want to keep in mind
do you
is
have
as
your
you're integrated to Avatax from the Aleron platform,
Yardo
we stay out of your way.
at
It's your
hyperreal.com?
business as usual.
Yeah,
You're operating within the
got it.
platform. You're creating orders. You're creating invoices as you normally would. When Aleron needs a tax calculation, rather than using the native
hmm
tax calculation functionality, it's simply going to send all that transaction information over to Avatax. And based
Yes.
on your account, your configuration, we will
I'll send
calculate
you a
that
different
tax
RMA
and
because
send that value
I've
back
already
to the
got
Aleron
findings from
platform to
them,
be
and
updated.
they're
Now,
willing to
when we
supply
do
me
that
with it.
tax calculation, we do
All right.
these, what are there, 9 steps here that
So
we
I
that
will
we
send
do
you a new
all
RMA.
within, under a second. So when we
Okay.
receive the
All right.
transaction, we're going to look at that
And I'll do
address
that
information
today
to
for you.
determine
Thank you. Bye.
what are the taxing jurisdictions down to that rooftop level. Once we have identified those taxing jurisdictions, then we're going to apply those sourcing rules. We're going to understand, is the jurisdiction an origin-based sourcing? Is it a destination-based sourcing? Is it mixed sourcing that we'll have to account for? Once we've determined what those taxable jurisdictions are, we assign them to that transaction, and that's where we're going to get that aggregate rate. Now, having the rate's one thing, but now we also have to look at who is the customer. And we're identifying there is that customer exempt from sales tax? So during this demonstration, you saw Amy went and signed in. As you're checking out through that e-commerce process, since you have an understanding of who the customer is, we can have that same understanding of who the customer is when we're doing that tax calculation and checking for compliance to ensure that that customer has, if they have an exemption certificate on file, Does that exemption certificate cover the jurisdictions where that transaction is taking place? If so, we'll apply that. After the exemption, we're also going to look at what are the items themselves being sold. So are the items being sold in that jurisdiction? Is there special taxability handling that needs to take place? We're also going to verify, pardon me, we're also going to verify, is there a tax holiday? Is there by chance, a tax holiday where there's just maybe no tax that weekend? So we're checking that. We're going to apply all those rules and regulations to the transaction. Only then we do the math. So then we'll do the math and we'll send that tax amount back to Aleron so you can decorate it and update it up onto the invoice, the order. We'll also store that transaction. So to help you track that tax liability. So Avalara will help you, track that tax liability down to those granular jurisdictions, ultimately help you, provide fantastic reporting on it and ultimately remit that tax to those jurisdictions as well. So that's a whole lot of all that happens within Avatax when that customer hits that purchase button. So that's what we call the sub-second challenger. We do all those things and return that tax amount to help you maintain your compliance.
And to come over the top with that, I want to make sure that everyone's aware that Aleron remains your source of truth. So everything that Bob just went through are things that are happening in the background within a split second. So there's no downtime. It's not something that your customer on the other end has to wait for. Richard, we talked about earlier how time kills deals and how sales processes get muddied down, right? So all of these things that are happening that Bob just went through within this sub-second challenge happen instantly, delivering back the accuracy of the tax, looking at all of these things on the screen, and allows you to keep Aleron your source of truth where everything's happening within that system.
Awesome. All right, Amy, you want to go to the next slide?
Sure thing.
Okay. So one thing we talked about and kind of just showcased there, a small part of what Avalara provides as far as a comprehensive compliance platform for you. So we really just saw the sales tax, that AR side, with the Avatax sales and use tax VAT. Touched a little bit on the exemption certificate and a bit on the reporting, but we do have, a whole other side of the house for purchases. And I don't know, Melissa, do you want to talk to some of the other services that we provide that might be of interest to these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes if people know about Avalara, sometimes they just look at us and they think tax calculation when really everything that Bob's here talking about on the screen are services that we can help cover under one roof, really as that one-stop shop. So from exemption certificate management to be able to use our system as a repository to keep track of those certificates that vary by state. Not sure if you're aware, but some exemption certificates, they can have different expiration dates, yearly, biannually, whatever it may be. Our tax returns and reporting, that's really fantastic because as we're doing the tax calculations for you within the system, we can also handle the returns for the states that you're registered in and the filing frequencies that are set with those states. Because we're doing those calculations on the front end, those numbers are able to snowball into the returns that we can file on your behalf. When it comes to e-invoicing and live reporting, that's really for a more international-based perspective. There are some countries that need that electronic invoicing to happen, which is something that we can handle. 1099s, 'tis the season for that. We can handle those. Sometimes I have companies that say, oh, well, we don't have a ton. I just signed someone up that had 4. So really, again, there's nothing too big or too small to be able to move forward with. We're very volume-based here at Avalara, so dependent upon what you need. And the volumes that you have is then reflective, from the different tiers that I would be able to slot you into.
Excellent. Any questions before we move ahead? No? Okay. So a few of the common use cases we see on the Aleron front. One case is a pretty common one. With all the M&A activity in the space, we'll see companies that have like a parent company and then their subsidiaries, and what that leaves them with is they have multiple ERPs, maybe multiple CRMs. Those systems are really disconnected and they need a way to really standardize. So I had a conversation with one global IT head in customer recently where he talked about standardization is the foundation for them to grow, because they can't grow with efficiency if they don't have that standardization. And they are also in that heavy equipment space. Another common use case we see is they have a pretty complex go-to-market. And again, system disconnection, a pretty common theme. So an example of an HVAC, actually a boiler customer that we have, where they sell direct to the consumer, to the buyer. They sell through dealers, they sell through distributors, they have their sales team. So it's a pretty complex process navigating all of those different channel relationships. And there's also a lot of fears of, okay, if I have anything online and it makes it even easier for my buyers to buy from me directly, does that disrupt my relationship? And that answer is no, and we'll walk through some of those risks and rewards, as there's a clean, easy way to do that to meet their needs. And then another common thing that we see, and we have one customer in Wisconsin, for example, high order volume, high number of SKUs. They have 4,000 products, 3,000 of which are configurable. So their inside sales team is constantly doing orders, reorders, job sheets, phone calls. And so for them, this was a really clean, consistent way to standardize that process. So as that new VP of sales came in and took a lay of the land, he was able to focus his team in on core segments where they were going to be able to grow, and then put some of these self-service for buyers who choose to go through this, and then also help the inside sales team in reducing some time. So I'm just going to put these up here on the e-selling and quoting side. As we think about like the fears, one thing I see and hear a lot too is a fear of doing it wrong. It's less a fear of missing out than it is a misstep, because we know it's hard if you have a misstep at work, right? Although a mantra can be fail fast, fail often, that doesn't always necessarily feel really good. And so being able to do that with how Aleran is designed is we take out that fear by making it very affordable, very fast, weeks to implement versus quarters. And then with that integration with Avalara, eliminating those risks of tax payments, compliance, or even overpayments. And then that ability to really maximize your sales team, like that example I mentioned of the customer who has 4,000 different SKUs, of which 3,000 of those are configurable. So it really helps the sales team be just that more efficient to cover much more ground faster. I'll turn over to Melissa and Bob on compliance fears.
Yeah, so accurate tax and accurate pricing. I have customers that have said to me, well, I'm just charging a flat rate across the board, and I'm, probably overcharging, but it is what it is. At least I'm safe with the states, right? But what is that doing from a customer service perspective and a customer experience? We have to make sure that you're charging the right rates in order to be able to return appropriately to the state. I have some customers that say, hey, these out of these 4 buckets, Melissa, customer experience is the most important. I have other companies that say growth is the most important, and taxes and understanding those taxes and implementing those taxes have prevented me from growing, where companies have quite literally said, I am choosing to not go into other states because I don't know the tax implications, because I don't want to deal with it. Lowering audit risk. I think this is a big one. I'll share a story. So I was dealing with a customer. They were audited. They were unfortunately hit very heavy. They had a few $100,000 in fines that they had to pay, with fines, fees, penalties, and interest. They were not a customer of Avalara, and after their audit, it took about 9 months of time, invested in it with their people, of reports, of data, of all the things they had to go find, the things they had to show. And after everything was paid and the auditors walked out the door, they signed up with Avalara about 6 months later. An auditor walked in the door 12 months after that again, thinking they were going to get some low-hanging fruit, and that auditor was in and out of the door in the same day. So that just shows the power of Avalara and how we really help automate and keep those companies compliant from that tax perspective. And I'll echo what I said before. Everything around taxes that your companies are investing in is non-revenue generating. You do not get a trophy for doing your taxes the right way. But you sure as heck, might have an auditor come through those doors and ping you if you're doing them wrong.
Yeah. So, and just with automating your compliance, you're going to free up a whole bunch of time for your finance team, right? All of that. And Melissa, how many tax, there's 65,000 different taxing jurisdictions. How many changes in and the tax laws were made, what, just this year, it was hundreds
Yeah,
of thousands of changes. Yeah.
there was 100,000 changes just in tax holidays. There was 86,000 changes in taxability updates in the US and Canada. Yeah, there's just too much to keep track of.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
in addition to that, it's unusual for a company to have a single platform. So how do you maintain that consistent tax calculation across your different platforms, from your e-commerce to your OMS to your ERP? Avalara's got integrations over 2,000 different platforms. So as you integrate, you can connect multiple platforms to your singular AvaTax account to power that tax calculation. So you can be ensured that you're going to get the consistent tax calculation from one platform to another as that transaction makes its way through the document lifecycle, saving again your IT and your finance team just the headaches of trying to do that reconciliation.
Mhm. Excellent. And so as we are taking a look, and we'll talk about some frequently asked questions as well. From an Aleron perspective, we're really designed to be easy to use, and I know a lot of platforms say that. Um, and the proof points with the easy to use is that it really needs limited minimal IT. You bring in the teams like finance or IT for the core integrations. You saw how simple that integration is with Avalara. And then the sales and marketing teams can run Aleron day to day. And then through that ERP connection that integrates fully with the products, the pricing, and to stand up those different buyer experiences. So, for example, a company has a buyer that they log into their portal and they get X pricing and products. Company B gets Y pricing and products. That is even easier than standing up a WordPress site, for example, where it has some really clean, easy to use widgets that you can pull in. We'd be happy to walk you through that process too if you have some interest in looking a little bit deeper. But you don't need to know code to be able to do this, or custom development work. Um, and it's all, again, integrated with the ERP. So you're eliminating those spreadsheets that we often see that act as a bridge between sales and engineering, as a way to try to manage and calculate. So before Aleron and Avalara, entering those sales orders manually, taking those calls, things getting lost. Maybe Richard, like you mentioned, that warm lead goes cold because it takes a little time to get back to them. Um, and then plus you're not getting that visibility into, demand planning for inventory because there's a little bit of lag in that back and forth process. And then of course that delayed time to quote, impacting, revenue, making that revenue posted a little bit later. After that automation, that shorter time, increased average order value. I shared how we use AI to show similar products based on their order history, and then AI in the checkout process for frequently bought together. So drawing on data from other like customers and prospects. And again, that key of you're doing it online, you have a strapped team, that finance team gets, freed up considerably of being able to have that complete peace of mind with your tax compliance. All right, so just a few stats, and we'll go into some questions here. So from the Aleron front, on average, we see 26% first year growth with our customers, 18% increases in average order value with those similar products and those suggested frequently bought together products. And then on average, at least 20% time savings and cost savings. And when you factor in the ROI in 3 months or less, it drives a pretty big impact pretty fast.
From a quantifiable perspective around Avalara, hours saved annually are close to 400. When you think about all the complexities that go into keeping track of tax rate tables, of exemption certificates, of refreshing those, of filing your returns, handling anything from a cross-border tariff perspective, the hours add up really quick. So there's over 85% of efficiencies gained. We have a very nice ROI within that first year, roughly 85% tax research work avoided. If you can imagine from the stats that Bob and I had said earlier around, close to 100,000 different tax rule changes just in the last 12 months alone. Avoiding that for the states, the locals, the jurisdictions that you're in is a huge cost savings. Roughly 6 months or less for a payback period, and ultimately annually saved is close to $150,000. And I mean, that could be even more if we, help you through an audit, right? So
Mhm.
lots of ROI, lots of quantifiable benefits by helping to automate and streamline those tax compliance processes today with Avalara.
Excellent. Excellent. So we'll go through a few frequently asked questions, open it up for questions as well. So one we get at Aleran pretty commonly is how fast can you go live? And we say as fast as you can. So that could be in as little as 30 days. It could be a couple of months, depending on the requirements and where your systems are at. Then for Avalara,
Yeah. For Avalara, I would say it's dependent upon what you need. Right.
mhm,
I've seen companies get things standing up within a couple of weeks. I've seen it take a few months. It's all dependent upon the size of your organization and what you need from an a la carte perspective from that architecture side that Bob and I had shown before. I will say that similar to Aleron, it is a very self-paced, we'll say move as you wish process. If you want to take the time to focus and dedicate to get things up and running, it is very much a self-service go live. But we do have different, we'll say, support and implementation packages where you could have a very white glove experience, or maybe you have folks internally that are used to standing up software and you can lean on them for something. So at the end of the day, I would say a good time frame would probably be 4 to 6 weeks. I've seen it go faster. I've seen it go longer.
mhm. Yeah. And if you caught earlier when you joined, we are an official certified Avalara technology partner. Um, so that brings you peace of mind that when you integrate with Avalara via Aleron, that your tax needs are completely covered. From a cost perspective for Aleron, we are priced by intent very affordably. So you get all in one. Whether you use them all at the same time or you pace them out, you get the CPQ, you get the shopping assistant that you saw, you get the shoppable product catalogs that you saw, and more, including product inventory management. So it's really meant to be that all in one, but you don't have to eat the elephant all at one time, which my husband hates when I say that, but it's true. You could start, even though you get all in one, you could start with the CPQ, get comfortable with your team and your workflow processes as part of your go-to-market, and then layer in the others. Um, and then we don't charge from a per user standpoint. It's again all in one, and then have those packages too to help you through implementation from a white glove perspective. And Melissa, what does pricing look like for Avalara?
Yeah. So before I talk about pricing, I want to go back to you folks finally, being a partner and a certified partner. We're very excited. Aleron is wonderful to work with. We're thrilled to have a partnership with them. And Aleron understands the complexities that go into taxes, which is why they've chosen to partner with Avalara. So I'm very excited to hopefully chat with more folks on the Aleron side that are customers today around how we can streamline things. From a cost perspective, I'm going to give you a great answer. It's dependent upon what you need and how big you are, right? So, Richard, if you're in 10 states and Patty, you're in two, Richard, you're probably going to need more returns than Patty's going to need based off of filing frequencies. So, therefore, I'm going to have to charge you more for how many returns you need versus what Patty does. So, yes, that's how cost is, but we are volume and tier based. So, Richard, if you're to say to me, Melissa, I have 10,000 transactions a year, I'm going to put you into a tier to reflect what you're currently doing today and to account for some growth. So we have different tiers, different volumes that we can do, and that's how cost is going to be then decided.
Mhm. Awesome.
Also influenced by domestic versus international, I see.
Yes, we do have domestic and international support from that GST, cross-border tariffs, 1099s, things like that. Yes. Yeah,
A
we
lot
can help
of that on
internationally.
GST as well, so,
Wonderful.
well,
Mhm.
no, but it'd be nice to get it off my plate.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say wonderful though, that we'll be able to help you with that. Yeah, it'll be one less
Yeah,
thing you have to worry about.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
And did you want to speak to compliance as well? I know you covered
Yeah.
that, you and Bob, in the slides previously too.
Yeah, I think just echoing everything that we said before, right? We meet manufacturers and companies of all sizes where they are. Our goal here at Avalara is to help drive compliance across inefficiencies and risk that you have from a tax perspective today around calculations. Thank you, Steve. Around tax calculations, returns, exemptions, international, domestic, anything that you're covering today that needs to be figured out from taxes, Avalara is able to help you.
Right. So we have our contact information here. And we'll also, we're going to share a little giveaway here. But before I share that, we'll also follow up and include the deck and our contact information as a follow-up. So you have that. If you want to take anything down now, you certainly can. And then again, we'll be following up with our information very shortly. Because if you'd like more, we'd love to talk, even if it's just to bounce off some ideas, or if you're not quite, you're kind of really thinking about what it looks like. And, we could draw in from what we typically see for customers or prospects to help in, your own assessment as you're championing that. So if you book a meeting with us in the next 2 weeks, December 23rd, 2 weeks from today, you will be entered to win this beautiful Yeti cooler. So it's a $375 value, and you could regift it if you so choose for the holidays. Um, any questions that you have that we could answer?
I have one quick question. I think
Mhm.
it might be helpful. I saw everybody's contact information, but would it be possible to maybe get a quick round of introductions just so we know kind of who we've heard from today?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Sarah. Um, well, you know me, Amy
Yeah.
Kamnick with Aleran.
Hi, folks. Bob Erdman. I'm a senior product solution engineer here at Avalara. I've been with Avalara a little over 12 years. Vast majority of that time I spent working with partners on developing integrations to the Avalara services with partners like Aleran. So was fantastic speaking with you all today.
Yeah. And my name is Melissa Nettles. I am a sales executive here at Avalara. I've been here for close to 2 years, and I come with about 15 years of experience with tax compliance prior to Avalara. My goal and intention of the call today was to help folks maybe understand a little bit more on Avalara and the services that we offer, with the intention to hopefully learn more about your businesses in the future and how Avalara might be able to help. I encourage everyone, take down my email, take down my phone number, give me a ring. I would love to learn more about your business to see if Avalara is a fit. If it's not, I'm going to be the first one to let you know.
Good.
Mhm. All right. Next up, at least going down, it looks like Sarah and then Richard.
Oh, hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Webster. I am Sarah with Avalara. I'm the Strategic Alliance Manager here. So I get to manage our wonderful partnership with Aleran, working with Amy and Patty and the team. And I just can't speak enough of how excited we are about this relationship and this partnership moving forward. And we're really excited to make you guys' life easier. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. All right, Richard.
Um, sure. Richard Melrose. I represent a company called EcoGate. We are
Mhm.
a global manufacturer. I manufacture in Eastern Europe, distribute globally, with a head office here in Los Angeles County in California. I sell to 40 states domestically and 5 other countries. Um, your use case of complex go-to-market with systems disconnect, you must have been reading over my shoulder what my life looks like. Uh, I, it is a problem that it gets bigger as you scale, and we hope to
Mhm.
scale.
Okay. Thanks, Richard. Patty.
Well, I wasn't prepared to even, I was just observing for this
Okay.
webinar. However, it was great to meet everyone and to see everyone. I have a rare distinction. I was actually at Avalara for 8 years, and now I'm at Aleran. So I appreciate everything that Melissa and Bob shared, and I echo everything they said about sales tax compliance. It's no bueno, and you don't want to do it yourself. So, and I'm really thrilled that Aleran, we have an official integration and we are partners because I think there's so much potential to help customers like Richard out there because there is definitely a true need. So, thank you everyone, and you guys all did a great job. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Patty. Joan? Oh, and I see Joan is on mute. Give her a hot second here. Okay, we'll go ahead to Angel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angel. I'm based in Mexico City. We are a partner of Aleran in TCP, and we work with a lot of solutions like ERP and CRM. And it is really amazing what Aleran is doing on the e-commerce side, and that's why we are partnered with them. We look forward to solve more problems and things and requirements that we are seeing on the industry. We mainly work with the manufacturing industry, where we are seeing a lot of companies like yours, where they need an e-commerce B2B solution, and Aleran is our go-to solution. So I liked a lot the presentation today, and thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Angel. Great. Let's see. And it looks like we went through everyone. Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing your thoughts, feedback. Richard, it sounds like we may need to put a date on the books here between myself and Melissa. So I don't think I had said, but I'm a VP of Marketing in PR. So I love these kinds of sessions because I get to hear what the community is thinking and feeling. And then that helps us overall make sure that we're doing our part to add value and service. So unless there's any other questions, we'll go ahead and stop the recording and the session for today. And then we will be following up to share this recording and a transcript, as well as details on how to book a time with Melissa, and I'll coordinate with a member of our sales team by the 23rd. Any questions before we officially wrap?
Nope, I'll follow up and we'll book a discovery call.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so
Look
much,
forward to it.
everyone.
Right off.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.